Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Silent Paths, Wild Hearts. Synopsis. Sequel to her Silent Howl, vanquished and on a journey of atonement, has spent the previous year searching for a means to gain his sister's forgiveness. When he encounters the White Wolf Natalia, his life spirals out of control and into the very realm he once opposed. She has shut herself off from the outside world, but when she is compelled to leave her refuge to aid a friend in distress, she inadvertently discovers something far greater than she expected. They must collaborate to address each other's dilemmas and learn to navigate their new realities side by side. Book 2 of Her Silent Howl. Episode 1. Prologue. Selene POV. Some time ago. I'm sorry, but it's for the best. I'm sure you're a wonderful man, but I am not going through this again. I, Natalia Chambers, reject you, Kyle Thompson. Natalia doubled over in pain for a brief moment, before standing back up and walking away. The young wolf will need a second chance made now. Oh Nat, I cried as I watched her from my platform, I wish I could fix it, fix you. You are one of my most precious children. I plucked some grass from the ground I was sitting on in frustration. How can I help her? She's closed her heart to the world, and if it turns cold, it will eventually drive the purity of her soul, darken her wolf, feral. She was one of the purest souls I'd ever encountered. She and Hestia had been through so much already. She deserved to have some happiness in their life, no matter how temporary it may seem to be. How can I help her, when I couldn't stop her from making that deal all those years ago? I began to walk around the platform, watching my children go about their lives below. I spent 4 years deep in thought when something caught my eye. I observed the situation while the gears in my mind were turning. Finally, I smiled. This could be tricky, but it might just work. I could resolve 3 major problems for my children if this worked. I stepped off my platform to the one below. The one with all the wolf spirits yet to be reborn. I spent a few months looking for her until I found the tree I was looking for. She had been sleeping in the little hollow of the tree for over a century. It was time for her to wake up. Kara, it's time to wake up. I'm going to need your help, I said as I petted her beautiful black coat, making her purr in her sleep. It's going to be a rough road ahead, but I've chosen your next human carefully. She will be born in a few years. I've set it in motion. You and her will be as one. Your bond with your mate will be one of the strongest I've ever created. Come little one, only my sister's wolf can handle such an important task. Helios POV. Present day. I'm not your enemy, brother. Selene screamed at me like she does every night. I know, sister. I'm sorry. I didn't know, I sobbed at her feet. I looked up at her as I do every night to see her looking down at me. You had your chance at redemption. You do not deserve another, she said coldly, just before she plunged the crystal dagger into my heart. I woke up in a cold sweat and sighed once I managed to get my heart rate back to normal. I've been having the same dream over and over almost every night for the last 8 months. I stood up, there was no getting back to sleep with the sunrise starting to peek over the ocean waves. I looked up at the fading moon. Is this just a nightmare, or have I already failed your task, sister? I asked her. I laughed ruefully. A little more guidance than find your redemption would have been nice. I turned to move away from my bedroom window overlooking the beach and I stopped as I thought I heard howling in the distance. All right, I get your point. I'll keep looking. I shook my head as I headed towards the bathroom. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. I may be eternal, but I was still susceptible to the dark bags under my eyes from the restless sleeps. I put my hand through my dark brown hair. It was starting to get long, maybe I was due for a haircut. I took in my dark brown eyes and squared chiseled jawline and copper skin. At my 5'9" and the amount of money I had once been called one of Mexico's most eligible bachelor in a couple of magazines. I had never really thought my looks were all that above average. I was buttoning my shirt up when I heard my laptop beep. I walked over to the monitor and checked my email to see what had come in. I couldn't help but smile as I clicked on the video as the sounds of giggling came out of the little speakers. "Peekaboo," came out the soft voice belonging to Celeste, and little Belarus and Corey giggled. The sound was contagious and I could hear Marcus, who must have been holding the camera, laughing quietly along with Celeste. I looked back at the body of the email and read, "Hi. How is the hunt for your mission going? We read that playing peekaboo with Corey and Belarus helps develop their object permanence and they are finding it to be the funniest game in the whole world. I can't wait for them to start talking so I can know what's going on in their little heads. It is probably the most fascinating thought process. We got the package you sent. The little crotchet dolls are lovely. Belarus sleeps with it every night though her alebrijes, mythical spirit animals, plushie is still her favorite. You really should come visit. I promise, Marcus is okay with it. At least consider coming to their birthday party in a few months. I hope you're taking good care of yourself and having a little fun. That's what living is all about, Helios. See you sometime. Celeste PS. I had the same vision last night again, you're still on the right path. I sighed and sent a quick response, promising her I'd make the party and how cute the babies were. I replayed the video for a moment, a torrent of emotions swirling inside me. I felt guilt, knowing how many family members I had taken from Celeste. Regret, at how I had almost denied her the life she currently had when I tried to kill her before her children were born. Gratitude, that she not only had helped me see the truth, but that she had forgiven me and reached out not for help, as I had told her in my letter, but to check up on me. It had started with a simple 4-sentence email from her. She wanted to say thank you for the gifts I'd dropped off at their pack grounds with a picture of the babies with the toys. Tiny little cherub kids that were just adorable. 4 months ago, we'd begun corresponding at length when she mentioned having had a vision of me that she was not allowed to talk to me about but to say that Selene was telling her I was on the correct path. Her emails had gone from formal and reserved to friendly and full of kinship. Much to my surprise, I found myself looking forward to her emails and texts. Getting updates on her family and friends almost made me feel like a part of her group. Almost. I had even started emailing with Marcus a bit as we talked about the threats I would discover, though he was still not easy to forgive. Not that I blamed him, I had tried to kill his mate and unborn children after all. I was surprised he was trying, which I think was also Celeste's doing. The only downside to having Celeste as a friend was the longing I'd begun to feel. The need to belong to something outside of myself. To have friends, to have a partner, a family. Feelings and needs of a life filled with love and peace. All things I've never allowed myself to have or even think about. I thought about all of this on my way to my temporary office in a dingy downtown building. I had just recently taken over a small import/export company that had shown promise but was terribly mismanaged. I had done this for the last couple of centuries. Shipping and exporting was one of those business ventures that persists. The first half of my life, I had been consumed by my need to hunt down my siblings, but while sailing around the world, hunting down the wolf reincarnations of my siblings, I had discovered I quite enjoyed the trade and I was good at it. It was also a trade that easily transferred to many countries. It made it easy for me to transfer corporation names and identities as I needed to not raise suspicions from the humans. Pretend to die, have my company sold to some international startup under a new name, etc. I walked into the tiny office. I would soon be rebranding this entire company from S&Y Textiles to Seoul Enterprises and moving it to a bigger building downtown, but before that could happen, a lot of work had to be done. It was keeping me busy while I figured out why Selene had dropped me here. I liked going through the books. I could have paid someone else to do it, but what else did I have to do? Go clubbing? Online dating? How many people on Tinder were out there looking for a 1728-year-old son and war god looking to redeem himself after a millennium of killing his siblings and punishing his moon sister for events that were not her fault? No, there was not a place for a man like me in that world. I continued to work through lunch until someone knocks on my door at 4 p.m. Helios, we found something. Gonzalo came into the small office. He was one of the 3 warriors I had allowed to stay with me. After they had helped me relocate to San Diego, I had given each of my remaining 22 warriors a substantial amount of money, a business in some part of the world, and my eternal thanks for centuries of loyal service after I had explained to them what happened at the Sun and Moon Pyramids last December. All but 3 had accepted. My warriors were not unkillable, but they hadn't aged past whatever age they were when they had fought alongside me in that brutal fight eons ago. I never quite found out why, though I imagined it was residual magic from the fight and Selene's sacrifice. I hoped they all found a way to navigate this world alone. I had always made sure they were educated with the times, all of us having attended university at least once every 50 years in order to make sure we were prepared for anything. I had no doubt that each of them would prosper in whatever business I had gifted them. Gonzalo, Theo, and Sebastian had refused to leave. They were the closest thing I had to a family, to friends, and when they insisted, I had not been able to say no, but I couldn't let them stay as warriors. We were no longer at war with my sister. I had instead made them partners in this new venture as equals, though I doubted they wouldn't follow me if I asked them to. Good or bad? I asked. Well, not good, but can't be sure it's bad, he said pointedly. He sat on the other side of the desk and pointed at the computer. May I? He asked, and when I nodded, he flipped the monitor towards the center of the desk and grabbed my keyboard. After accessing the camera surveillance feeds from the last few months before we took over the business, he came upon what he wanted to show me. I watched the video he was showing me, and after the 3rd time he restarted it, I finally noticed what he wanted to show me. There was a time jump in the feed. Someone had erased a chunk of time from the camera feeds. turn them off or cut the video after. Is this the only instance of this? I asked him. No, I have found at least 5 other times in the last year, at least from this feed. We've still got gate footage, and office footage to go through, he answered. Send me the times and dates and skip the gate footage to only these timings to an hour before and after these timings. Same with the office footage, but search as far back as a week before and after these times. I'll look at the financial records and see if I can find anything. Are we thinking this is like Sydney? I asked. Seems very likely. Should I try to contact some of the warriors that remained in the country if we move forward with this? He asked. I shook my head. They no longer serve me. The 4 of us should be able to handle this on our own. We have done things with less. As you wish, but they would come Helios. They may not serve you, but they are loyal to you. They would do this for you. Let's save that for emergencies. If things get too dicey even after we hire a few warriors from one of the security companies we have contracts with, I said. I'll email the time and dates once I finish going through the entire doc feed. You should get some dinner, I can hear your stomach from here, he said as he left. My stomach growled very loudly at his words as if reminding me that they required attention. I sighed and put away all my paperwork and saved my work. I went down to a place half an hour out of my way and picked up some food on the way home. No matter how many countries I went, I always preferred Mexican, and I was willing to drive out of the way to get authentic. It was just above all other cuisines as far as I am concerned. I guess in that way, I'm an old man stuck in my ways. Helios POV. It took me 5 days to find a pattern. Going through about 6 years' worth of financial records had my brain melting out the side of my ears. Even with the dates Gonzalo had sent me, it had been difficult. The dates, at first, appeared to be random. I had to go through the financial records very carefully to try to find the same combination of transactions that indicated to me that additional goods were being brought in. It was always the same. There was a 2-month gap and then a 3-month gap, followed by a 3-week gap. Every time. It was always when we had containers from Brashun Textiles and the containers were underweight. Always on the same ship. It was the only time that containers were underweight. Every other time, there were payment receipts for the fines for being over the limit. Gonzalo came back in after I finished my review. What are you thinking? If they keep their schedule, we can't do anything for another 6 weeks. We'll continue with the merger as scheduled. Don't tell anyone but the 4 of us about it. We don't want to tip them off and we don't know who's involved. Do you want us to start following? He asked. No, Gonzalo. You guys are no longer my warriors. You are my friends and business partners. Besides, it makes no sense to tail everyone. Let's wait for the next import and see if we can identify any of the players. The boys are getting bored, Helios. We aren't used to not serving you. Throw them a bone soon so they can get their jollies off on a hunt, he said. I laughed. I'm sure we'll have our hands full soon enough. Besides, we still have a lot of work to do with this merger. If they need more excitement than that, he laughed and rolled his eyes, we can go hunt the Nawal, that we heard had become obsessed with Marcus Fear. We are supposed to get information on its current whereabouts soon. It will likely be near Arizona. Are you ready for that? I hated the concern I could hear in his voice. No, I wasn't ready, but I wouldn't be able to avoid it forever. I'll be fine. If we have to go see them, we go see them, I told him, lying through my teeth. I hadn't told anyone of the nightmares I'd been having or how I've been deflecting Celeste's invitations to see them. I wasn't ready to face everyone's judgment. Judgment I definitely deserved. I've been with you for as long as you've been alive, Helios. You know I can tell when you're lying. He told me, but then ran a hand through his hair before standing. It's Friday. We've got poker night at Theo's at 6. Don't forget, he said as he left the office. I leaned back in my chair when he left. Gonzalo thought that I was scared of Marcus after what I did to Celeste and, in a small way, I was. But if I was truthful to myself, I was scared of getting up and shut out of the small progress I had made. Having nothing in my own life, I'd begun attaching myself to the people Celeste talked about in her emails and texts. The videos and pictures she sent me. From afar, I felt myself a part of their lives. If I went there and got shut out of their lives, I didn't think I could handle that loneliness yet. I needed more time to be something other than Huitzilopochtli, the monster god of sun and war that had killed so many of his siblings and tried to kill their Luna. I'm pathetic, I said out loud with disgust. I shut down my work. I went home and worked out in the gym. There were full window walls at one end. Looking at the sun dipping under the ocean while I worked out my own insecurities always helped. I showered and went over to Theo's house. I wasn't really one for playing poker, but I knew it was their way to include me in their circle and break down the walls that had been raised through thousands of years' worth of servitude. I needed them to see me as their friend, as they were the only ones I had. Helios, Sebastian opened the door to his and Theo's penthouse apartment. He was the one that had the most trouble letting me in and I wasn't sure why. I don't remember ever having treated him wrong. Hey, you guys start. I asked as I handed him the 24 case of beer I'd brought with me. No. Theo's running behind. The contractors had a bunch of questions about the top floor designs for our offices, he said. We walked to the fridge to put the beer in. Theo was in charge of setting up the new building. Sebastian was in charge of setting up security. He was also in charge of arranging outside contracts for security and was the one with all the underground contacts. Gonzalo had always been my right-hand man in just about everything and he always helped me get the new acquisitions ready for merging. We were old hands at this. We still occasionally struggle with the change in roles. They still feel the need to ask for permission to make a final decision despite me telling them they don't need to ask for approval from me. We were all a group in progress. We hear anything on the Nawal? I asked him. No, I can't get in touch with Sparks while he's underground. We will just have to wait for his scheduled check-in. I nodded as I grabbed one of the beers and went to join Gonzalo in the living room. Their sofa was probably my favorite feature in the place. It was a giant white Italian Mario Bellini Bamboli sofa. It was like a white cloud I could, and have, fall asleep on. I thought you had dinner tonight? I asked Gonzalo. Theo said he'd pick something up on the way home or he'd come home to empty containers, he smirked. I made a face. He better not bring pizza again. There's nothing wrong with pizza, Helios, I heard Theo behind me. I was relieved to see that he had containers of food and not a pizza box. It's nothing but bread and cheese. I would rather eat quesadillas, I teased, but frowned when I saw his face fall for an instant. He looked away quickly before he looked back at me and laughed. Maybe you just haven't given it a chance, he said awkwardly. What did you bring for food? I changed the subject. Maybe I could ask Gonzalo what that was about tomorrow. I did not want to make things tense. Indian. I was in the mood for some vindaloo, he said as he started opening the fragrant containers, and my stomach growled as the smell of the food reached me. Clearly your stomach approves of my choice, he laughed. We were a couple of hours into poker when Sebastian spoke up about work. So what's the plan for the illegal imports? He said casually. Wait, watch, dismantle. Like usual. I answered. He said as he called Theo's bet. I folded. I had cards. What's going through your head? I said. I think we should be more prepared than we were in Arizona. We got really close to losing Clara because we weren't prepared. I winced remembering how we had to follow the buyer and grab her by force because we didn't know about the online auctions at the time. What would you propose? I asked him. We've got that genius from Crescent Moon coming to finish the security measures tomorrow. After he leaves, I won't have as much to take care of. His portfolio is pretty impressive. I doubt he will need supervision. I was thinking we find the black market in the area early on. Establish an inn. I leaned back on the chair and finished the beer in my hand. That would certainly be safer than winging it. So can I run with it? He said as he lost the hand with a groan. Of course. If you think that's a good idea. We're partners now, Sebastian. He seemed to brighten up at that a lot. You know you guys can do stuff without my permission, right? Even stuff that doesn't include me. If you want to take on side projects, baby steps, Helios. This is a change for all of us. Give us a couple of decades to get used to having a vote. Theo said, and everyone laughed. I rolled my eyes. Like you three weren't always the vocal ones. You did send us all to business school. Multiple times, I might add. Would have been a waste of money if we didn't use it, Gonzalo said. Yes, used it loads. Where were your skills when you tried to negotiate with that Anansi we came across in Ghana? That give me a hand was not the deal you were paying for, and we had to pay twice to get across to Guinea and dispose of the random human hand he brought out of his bag. Everyone roared with laughter and Gonzalo turned a deep red. It wasn't my fault, it took my phrase literally, he said indignantly. I got up and grabbed some more beers. This is an adjustment for all of us, but I'm glad you all stayed, I said. Life would be boring without you. I tilted my beer up at them. Gonzalo and I crashed on their couches for the night, being too drunk to drive to our respective places. I had nightmares as usual, though Gonzalo's snoring made for weird snarls from the shadows as I heard a ghostly Celeste accuse me of killing her and her pups. I lay on the couch as I looked out the penthouse window. Go back. They'll be awake soon. I heard Theo say. Why can't we just tell them? I'm tired of pretending that I don't love you, baby, Sebastian whispered, yelled at him. I froze. Clearly, I was not supposed to hear any of this. Do I let them know I can hear? Do I let them keep their secrets to themselves? You know why, Theo hissed. Please, I don't want to have to leave this place. He said more softly. I frowned. No, I didn't know why. You don't know that he would be against us. You should give him more credit. I've never seen him say anything on the subject. I hate lying to him, Theo, Sebastian said, and I decided I wouldn't let them keep their secret. I sat up on the couch and saw them freeze. I raised an eyebrow. Theo and Sebastian were both in their boxers, holding each other's hands. Both looking pale and flustered. I crossed my arms. How long has this been going on? Helios, Theo started. I saw Gonzalo wake up and sit up. Theo had still been holding Sebastian's hands, and when they saw him get up, Theo dropped his hands like they were on fire. What's going on? Gonzalo asked. That's what I'm trying to find out, I said. How long have you two been a thing? Theo looked like he was close to fainting. 187 years, Sebastian said. I put my fingers on the bridge of my nose. 187 years, and they kept it from everyone that long? I know public opinion on same relationships has only just begun to change in the last 50 years, but I had thought I treated my people well enough that they would not be afraid to be themselves. I looked back up at them. Sebastian had moved slightly in front of Theo as if attempting to shield him from me. I really must have failed as their leader for them to be afraid. This explained why they were never as open with me as Gonzalo was, even though I knew they were loyal to a fault. So you're telling me that I could have been sleeping in a comfortable bed this whole time, and instead I've been sleeping with the Snorlax for no reason? I pointed to Gonzalo. Hey! Gonzalo whined beside me. We're equals now. What makes you think you would have gotten the bedroom? I'm a senior citizen. It's your duty, I told him seriously. Pfft! I'm technically older. You were born grown, I did my years like a normal person, he argued back. I heard Sebastian half chuckle and turned back to them. Sebastian looked more relaxed, but Theo was just flabbergasted. His mouth was opening and closing. Is it really that hard to believe that I would be okay with this? Am I that much of a monster in your eyes? I asked Sebastian. I couldn't help the pain that came with my words. And no. It's just. We have been hiding what we are for centuries. It took a long time for Theo to accept who he was, longer still to give me a chance. We have seen the persecution of people like us for centuries. He thought I thought it would be hard for you and Gonzalo to get over the aversion we've seen through the centuries. I'm sorry, Theo said. I scoffed. I've seen enough in one lifetime to know that love is love, and anyone lucky enough to find it should hold on to it and never let it go. I'm glad you think so, Helios, because I have something to say. Gonzalo was smirking at me. I waited patiently through his dramatic pause. I'm starving, and I have a hangover. Can we stop so early in the morning? Congratulations to you too. I will forgive you for lying to us if you make me pancakes. Theo laughed and headed for the kitchen. Wait, so does this mean I can put in our room now? Sebastian asked as he followed him. No, there's no closet space for you in there, I heard Theo say. Oh come on, you can make room. You don't need 40 black suits, Sebastian whined. I turned to look at Gonzalo. Did you know? He shook his head and I breathed out in relief. At least it's not just me they were afraid of. I've been wondering what I did to make them think I would be angry. We've lived a long time, Helios. Through the rise and fall of empires and civilizations. Same relationships have only been legal in most places for 50 years, and are still illegal in many others, including Mexico. I understand their fear. Come, let's help with breakfast. He pushed me off the couch and towards the kitchen, where Theo and Sebastian were already mixing pancake batter. Unknown POV flashback. I paused my TV show as I heard rapid knocking on my door. Who could be here at this hour? It was almost midnight and I had little friends. I opened the door with my knife behind my back. Ha-won pushed in with her husband draping over her. I waited for Ian Kyung to come in behind them, but when there was nothing, I assumed that they had left her home with a neighbor. What happened? I said as I closed the door and helped her put Won on the couch. There was blood dripping down from his side. I lifted his shirt to see the large gash. I instantly put my hands on the wound, channeling my energy towards it, helping it heal. It was slow work. What happened? I asked Ha-won again. She was crying uncontrollably next to her husband. She got taken, Natalia, she cried. But we told her not to go to the woods. Not until we stopped the poachers. I moved my hands a little more to the left along the wound, a jagged red line left where I had healed it. She is a teenager, Nat. Her friends decided to have a bonfire in the woods and she snuck out. We found her empty bed and went looking for her. When we found them, her and her friends were already in cages. We tried to fight but they knocked me out and stabbed Won. By the time I woke up, Won was bleeding out and Ian Kyung was gone. They are early. I didn't think they would be active again for another week. Grab the control. Go to input 4 and rewind the feeds to when she left your house, I said as I moved my hands to the final spot on his abdomen. He was regaining a bit of color now and was stirring a bit. I was sweating once I finished healing Won. He had been near death and it had taken a lot of energy from me. I grabbed a jar of peanut butter and a spoon and sat on the other end of the couch. We watched as 3 leopard cats and 2 Mongolian wolves dashed into the woods with bags of snacks in their muzzles. I followed them through the camera feeds I had set up in the forests 2 months ago after we realized there were poachers taking shifters thinking them endangered animals to sell on the black market. Ian Kyung, being a recent shifter, was clearly the smallest feline trailing behind the group. I saw as they ran into the traps easily. The 2 wolves had been able to break free and ran while the 3 shifter cats remained trapped. I sped up the feed a little until I saw the poachers enter the woods, followed by the Won and Ha-won a few minutes behind. I turned up the audio of the conversation but I couldn't hear well enough. I got near the speaker as I replayed their conversation. We needed those wolves. That's what the boss wants. We'll have to come again next week. These will fetch a pretty. They got cut off trying to wrangle the cats as Won and Ha-won came into view. I stopped the feed and sat back, a plan already forming in my head. Ha-won could not stop crying for her baby as I looked around my apartment. This was the longest I'd stayed in one place in a while. I had grown attached to little Ian Kyung so fast, I hadn't been able to leave. Her high energy and curiosity had captured my heart. Juan woke up then and I had to help Ha1 hold him down. He may not be in danger of dying anymore, but I wasn't a miracle worker, I couldn't replace the blood he'd lost. When I saw him get so agitated, I feared he would get a heart attack, so I clocked him in the jaw and he was out. I'm going to need your help, Ha1, I told her. I am going to get Ian Kyung back, but I need you to help me pack up my apartment. I don't know how long I'll be gone. I am rather fond of some of my stuff. Anything. Tell me what you need. I want my baby back, Nat, she cried. I gave her a long hug. I'll get her back, I promise, I said, chastising myself for making a promise I didn't know if I could keep but unable to stop my mouth from making it. My heart was breaking for her. I am going to print out a few pictures of the poachers. I need you to find out who they are. They want a wolf, I will give them one. They will take my right to her, I said. End of flashback. I woke up with a groan. They had injected me with a tranquilizer before loading us into the shipping containers. Hestia was still in the driver's seat, so they must not know we were a werewolf. The last thing I saw was Ian Kyung getting put into the container besides mine. Hestia? I asked. We didn't talk to each other much anymore and, even then, we didn't really need to use many words. We've been at sea for a couple of hours only. I don't know where we're going. You can't hear anything from inside here, she said. I looked through her eyes and noticed we were surrounded by cloth. Ian Kyung? Still asleep. They gave her the same thing they gave us. I can feel her near though. She is fine, she assured me. I sighed with relief. How long do you think we'll be in here? Days at least. They left enough food and water in the cage for a few days. She turned so I could see the carcass of a deer and a child's pool full of water. They could have given us a bed and a laptop at least, I said, and she laughed. There's no camera in here. Do you want to take over until we reach wherever we're going? She asked. Maybe later. Let's just sleep for now. I answered her and she nodded and headed towards the stacked hay on one side of the cage. She circled it twice and laid down to sleep. Natalia? Do you feel like things are about to change too? She asked. Yes, but I don't know why. I said honestly. Ever since I'd found the poachers, there was a feeling in my chest I couldn't explain. I couldn't figure out if it was a good change or a bad change. It was like an itch under the skin. A weird pressure in my chest. When I packed up my apartment, I somehow felt like it was useless, like I wouldn't be coming back for it. We'll worry about it when we need to. For now, we just need to save Ian Kyung and get her back home to her parents. I told her as we fell into a deep sleep. Ian Kyung, can you hear me? I called out, goddess knows how long after our nap. Nat. Nat. Where are you? I'm scared. She cried out through the mind link. I'm in the container next to yours, sweetie. Is everyone okay? I asked her. Yes, but we're scared. Where are they taking us? I don't know, sweetie, but I'm right here. How are you linking me? Did you join our pack? She asked. No, it's a gift I have. I can link anyone I share an emotional connection with. You know how much I love you, I explained. I love you too, Nat. Is Dad okay? I saw them hit him. He is fine. He and your mom are just worried about you. Have any of you shifted back? We shifted in here. They think we're just normal cats. Good girls. It's better they don't know until we escape, okay? Tell your friends. Do you have food and water? Yes. Good, just relax for now. There's nothing we can do until we get to where they are taking us. Are there any other shifters in there? No, the rest are just animals. Okay. Ration your water and food. We don't know how long this trip will be. Make sure you and your friends sleep in your cat form. We don't want to get caught in human form. Okay, she said meekly. It will be okay. I won't let anything happen to you. I reassured her. I'm sorry I went into the woods. I didn't think, she cried. It's okay. Everything will be okay. I soothed her. I sang her some lullabies her mom used to sing to her when she was smaller until I felt her fall asleep. Please don't make me a liar, Selene. I prayed to the moon goddess before I let Hestia come forward, and we also went to sleep. Helios POV. I walked into Seoul Enterprises for a meeting with Evergreen Roswell, the security genius from Marcus Security Company. He'd flown in around lunchtime for an afternoon meeting to finalize and install the requested measures. The first thing I noticed was the dark circles under his eyes, but I figured it was none of my business. I was more concerned when he seemed to fall asleep while Sebastian and I consulted each other about what security package we wanted to have installed. Are you okay, Mr. Roswell? I asked. His arm holding his head jerked and he almost face-planted on the conference table. I apologize, sir. I have been having issues sleeping. They gave me some sleeping pills for it, but it's not working so far. Are you sure you're up for the job? I asked. Yes, sir. I won't get started until tomorrow. I promise this won't happen again, he said, blushing. We continued with the meeting. The incident seemed to have gotten him alert enough to answer all of our questions to our satisfaction. I will start in the morning. If you could let me know when you open the office, I will be here then. He got up, shaking our hands. Are you staying nearby? I asked. I'm not sure yet. I didn't plan on staying originally, but as you've gone for the highest security plan, I'd like to oversee the full installation personally, as the higher security measures can be a little temperamental to install. I'll take any recommendations on hotels, if you have any. How about you stay at my house? I've got a meeting early in the morning anyway. We can have Gonzalo over and speak a little bit more about the other services Marcus Company offers. Are you sure that's not too much trouble? I can easily comp a hotel, he said hesitantly. No trouble at all. I insist, I said. We went back to my place and ordered Chinese. After dinner, we were sitting outside chatting about the company and the services it offered, when I noticed that he was falling asleep again. Why don't you head to bed? You look dead on your feet and I need you in top form tomorrow, I told him. He blushed and nodded. After he left, I looked at Gonzalo. It seemed weird, no? Yes, I got a lot of recommendations about the company and him specifically. They are very highly regarded in both the human and shifter sectors. This seems quite outside of their usual norm and professionalism. Let's see how he is tomorrow. I have a bad feeling about this, I said as we went back into the house. Okay. Don't bother with breakfast. I'll grab something on the way to the office, he said as he left. I woke up the next morning and suited up. We were meeting with a new potential client, and if we could get them on board, it would put us on the map and halfway to profits for the year. Good morning, sir, Evergreen greeted me in the kitchen, a pot of coffee already brewing. You look rested, I mentioned. He still had some dark bags under his eyes, but he was almost chipper. I don't know what kind of mattress is in your bed, but I slept like a baby for the first time in a month, he said as he moved away from the coffee pot so I could fill my own. So the issue started a month ago? I asked casually. Yes, we've hired an environmentalist to try to figure out why we're having so much trouble as of late, but the water and soil samples they've tested have been cleared. We're not sure why everyone is having such terrible sleeping nights. It's never happened before, he mentioned. Wait, it's not just you having sleeping issues? I asked. No, the entire pack has been sleeping like crap for the last month. Everyone's exhausted. More so everyone living in and around the pack house, so we're concentrating the testing there. Interesting, was all I said, but I was running my head through all the possibilities. I would have to talk to Sebastian. We needed to get in touch with his contact. I almost lost the bid on the new client. I was distracted. Thankfully, Theo and Gonzalo were there to pick up the slack, though I could see that they looked concerned for me. We passed by the temporary office we set up for Evergreen. He was happily working away, headphones in his ears. The difference from yesterday was clear. Well, he certainly looks better, Gonzalo said as we entered my new office. Yeah, I said. Did you exchange bodies? I couldn't tell if you were falling asleep in there or just distracted, he said. Distracted. I looked at Sebastian. When will we hear from your contact again? He should be calling after lunch. Why? I think something is going on already at Crescent Moon. Evergreen mentioned they are testing soil and water for contamination. They are all having trouble sleeping, I said. And you're thinking it's not the environment? Theo asked. I think you can feed off of fear a lot easier if your targets are exhausted, and even more so if you're having nightmares, I said. But the novel doesn't have that power, Sebastian said. No, but they could partner with someone who does. That's likely the reason why we know they are after Marcus. If he was in the black market looking for someone to hire or make a deal. Sebastian said and looked at Theo. What? We encountered an ALU in Nevada when we went underground looking for the Managua that was after Celeste's powers. What's an ALU doing all the way over here? Aren't they usually in Iraq? I asked, frowning. It's the 21st century Helios, Gonzalo laughed at me. I rolled my eyes, try to gauge if your contact knows anything about the ALU. Gonzalo, clear both of our schedules for the next couple of days. You and I are going back to Crescent Moon with Mr. Roswell. Oh come on, you aren't seriously leaving me here? Sebastian complained. You have an assignment already. Find an inn with the black market, I reminded him. He groaned, fine, but I've got the next fight mission. I'll let Evergreen know your plan. Make sure you reach out to Celeste. It was my turn to groan. I guess I couldn't put it off much longer. I'll call her, I grunt. They left my office while I paced, looking at my phone the entire time. After 20 minutes of talking myself into making the call, I dialed her number. There were 3 rings before, hello, came her soft voice. I blanked. Helios? Is everything okay? Did something happen to Evergreen? She sounded concerned and I felt guilt crashing into me instantly. Evergreen? No. He's fine. He's working on our security installations right now, I quickly reassured her. Oh, that's good. What's up? She said. I could hear her exhaustion even over the phone. Even then, I could feel the warmth in her greeting. Have you guys been having trouble sleeping? I asked her. Oh, yes. Did Evergreen mention it? She sounded confused now. A bit. He was falling asleep through his presentation, I responded. Oh no, I'm sorry. I promise he's top-notch. We're trying to figure out what's causing the sleep issues. I'm not worried about the job. He seems a lot better now after sleeping away from the pack house. Oh, that's good. I think, maybe I need to spend a few nights away too. That will let us catch up on some sleep. She ended her words with a yawn. Listen, I am sending Marcus some information. Hang on. He's here, I'll put us on speakerphone, she said, and I heard some brief conversation and the beep as she put me on speakerphone. Helios, came Marcus' voice. He sounded tense and exhausted. Good morning Alpha Marcus, I was about to tell Celeste. I don't think you have an environmental issue. Are you having nightmares? I asked. Yes, we all are. How did you know? He asked. I am waiting for confirmation from my contact, but based on what I know of the novel and what Evergreen mentioned this morning, I think he may already be there and I think he's made a deal with an ALU to weaken your defenses and feed off your fear a lot easier. What is that? We haven't had any attacks or breaches of the border, he countered. You would not feel them. They are spirits. As I said, this is just a theory, but an ALU is a Sumerian demon. It has no mouth, eyes, or ears. It terrifies its victims with dreams and can result in sleep paralysis and, if it feeds long enough from an individual, coma. Wait, did you say no mouth and no eyes? Celeste asked. Yes, have you seen it? I thought I was dreaming. That's the creature I saw at the end of the bed the day I thought I dreamt there was a weird-looking dog on top of you Marcus, she said. I don't think you were dreaming. The dog is likely the novel. Listen. I have some experience with novels and I can pick up supplies to deal with the ALU. I'd like to come help, with both of your permission. I asked, trying not to let the nerves show in my voice. There was silence at the other end of the line for a moment. They must be mind-linking each other, so I waited patiently. I heard Marcus sigh at the other end of the line. We would be grateful for your help, Helios. We will set up the guest room. When should we expect you? He said, and I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. As soon as Evergreen is done with the upgrades. I'll charter us out your way. I'll be bringing my associate with me. Sounds good, Helios. We'll ask Evergreen when he'll be getting work done. Thank you. I thought I was sleep deprived when the twins were born, but this is on another level, she sighed. We'll see you in a few days. Alpha Marcus, please be careful. The novel is after you. If you get too weak, you could succumb to the ALUS nightmares, I said. I don't imagine going to a hotel would help. He asked. I think it would either help you, or help your pack. The novel would follow you, but I'm not sure if the ALU would consider your whole pack a bigger feast than just one person. I think perhaps consider getting someone to knock you out at night so you have a dreamless sleep or medical coma, I said. He sighed, thank you Helios. I will keep that in mind. Bye. Celeste said from the background. See you both in a few days, I said as I hung up the phone. Helios POV, this was a mistake. They weren't ready. It hadn't been enough time. I should have just sent Sebastian. I was on the plane for the short 1-hour trip to Arizona 2 days after my phone call. I was sweating pretty heavily despite the flight attendant having already turned on the AC. Relax Helios. They both agreed for you to come. That has to mean something, Gonzalo whispered to me. Oh, they aren't mad at you anymore, Evergreen piped up. Werewolf hearing. Alpha was at first. He thought you'd come back and try to take Luna again, but not after we confirmed the stuff with the Managua. He begrudgingly admitted that Luna was right and that you weren't planning on showing up at midnight to take her away again. So that's why he started answering his emails with more than single-word responses, I mused. Yeah, well, that was part of the deal, he said. Deal? Yes, Luna told him that if she could prove you were serious about helping them, he would have to make an effort with you. She insists you need more friends and I probably shouldn't have told you that last part. I'm so getting fired, he said, sitting down and dropping his head onto the back of the seat. Your secret is safe with me, I laughed. I was actually feeling very grateful he word vomited all of that. It eased my nerves considerably. We arrived at the airport and there was a black SUV waiting for us. I had expected this. What I had not expected was Marcus coming to pick us up personally. I briefly wondered if this whole thing was a ruse and I was being dispatched before even getting a chance to see Celeste and their pups. Marcus extended his hand out as we got closer. Helios. Thanks for coming, he said, trying to smile. Alpha Marcus, please take no offense to this, but, you look like poop, I said as I shook his hand. He laughed, well, after what you told my maid about the novel and ALU, she won't let me sleep more than 2 hours at night and she is only letting me sneak in naps during the day. I winced. Sorry, that was not my intention, but it may well be saving your life. You all look like to be honest. Who knows how long they have been feeding? I motioned to his warriors and his beta. Well, let's hope you're right and this comes to an end quickly. We got the materials you requested, he said as we got into the SUV. It shouldn't take more than 1 or 2 days. Gonzalo and I can see them, so we should only need a night or two before we find them and dispatch them. The timing is right for it. Tomorrow is the full moon and I've sent most unmated members off to a neighboring pack for the full moon celebration. Most of the girls will set up camp in the pup's daycare room for the next couple of nights in case they need to be protected. Honestly, we need to sleep. Everyone is moody and on edge, so I apologize in advance if you are met with a bit more hostility than you normally would. Everyone's aware of all the help you've provided us, and should be on their best behavior, but let's just say that I've had to send a few warriors down to the cells just to cool off. I appreciate the heads up. Hopefully your pack goes back to normal once they get a good night's sleep. Evergreen was night and day after the first night of rest, I said, pointing to where Evergreen was already working on his laptop on his way back. He could barely keep his head up at the meeting, I said, and I saw him blush but pretended he couldn't hear. Sorry about that. He's the best we've got, even exhausted, but I probably should have asked him to take an energy drink before that. He got his feet under him after resting. Don't even worry about it. Your products are top quality and I do agree, he's the best even at half capacity. Marcus seemed happy to hear that and I could see how much pride in his company he had. Just a quick warning, he said, slightly embarrassed. Celeste is at that stage of exhaustion where she's super energized and emotional. If she hugs you, just don't make it awkward for her, he laughed. I'll do my best to control my temper too, but it's been 72 hours since I've had any kind of restful sleep. Just ignore me, he said. I grew to like Celeste while I had her in my house, but I can assure you, Alpha Marcus, I want nothing more than to be her friend and try to make up for everything I did to both of you, I said earnestly. I know. I doubted it at first, but I believe you, Helios, and please, it's just Marcus, he said as we pulled into his pack grounds. Celeste was waiting outside with a stroller along with those who I knew to be Maya, Jillian, Camilla, and Daniel from all her emails and photos. We got out of the SUV. Alpha, I'm going to go see Valeria. I'll brief you tomorrow. He asked, already walking toward a building on our left. She's almost done with her shift. Celeste had her dismissed early so you could come to dinner. She's cooking. Marcus called after him. Evergreen's eyes brightened up at that and ran faster. Helios. Celeste came up to me and gave me a hug that I returned awkwardly at first, but then she squeezed me tighter. I hugged her back, remembering Marcus' words on the ride over. I'm making a mole. I learned to make it when I visited Mexico the first time. I want you to tell me how close to the original recipe it is. It's all from memory, she said brightly at me. Ah, well, I can help you cook if you want. It's one of my favorite recipes, I said. Yes. Someone as old as you should know the right way to make it, she chirped, and I understood what Marcus said about being super energized. Yeah, old timer. You should know, Gonzalo laughed at me. Celeste, Gonzalo will make tamales for you before we leave. It's his specialty. I smirked at him. Oh come on, that's like 5 hours of work, he whined. Is that too much effort for you, old timer? I teased. Fine, but I'm comping that to the company card as business dinner, he said, and Celeste grabbed him and dragged him into the house, chatting at him away about what ingredients he would need. I love you too, Tulai. The ride was fine. I'm not tired at all, Marcus huffed as he pushed the stroller up the little ramp. I hadn't seen the times I'd briefly been here before. It must be a new addition now that the ranked females have children. I chuckled as I caught up with him with my bag over my shoulder. I peeked down at the stroller and smiled at the two pups. The boy was sleeping, but little Belarus was looking everywhere with her inquisitive gray eyes. I pulled out one of the two glowworms I had bought for them. "May I?" I asked. Marcus stopped and nodded at me. I squeezed the little worms so the cheeks lit up and a soft lullaby started playing. "I have another one for Cory, but I don't want to wake him, so you can just give it to him later," I told Marcus as I started hearing Belarus babbling happily. "Can we take a walk after dinner? I want to try to find where the Nawal and the Alu might be hiding. If we can find them while they sleep, it will be easier," I asked him. "Yes, we can show you around. I'll walk you to your suite," he said, and one of the warriors handed him Gonzalo's bag. "His suite is next to yours," he explained as we headed to some small double doors. He pushed a button and the elevator opened up behind the doors. "It's only on the second floor, but with the stroller, this is the best way," he said, and I nodded in understanding. I helped Celeste cook while Gonzalo checked over all the materials we would need for both the Nawal and the Alu. We had also brought a few more items in case we were wrong, but Sebastian's contact had confirmed that the Nawal had made a contract with a nightmare demon. He couldn't say for sure which one it was, but the Alu seemed to be the right guess as he hadn't seen it in the underground for a few weeks. Surprisingly, whoever taught Celeste to make mole, taught her correctly because she didn't really need my help. She was patient and treated the spices delicately. Shortly before dinner, people started passing by to see what was cooking and gave me curious looks as I sat on the kitchen counter with Marcus as we talked, and I bounced little Cory on my knee as he played with the buttons on my shirt. The little rascal kept trying to eat them until Celeste handed him a frozen waffle, explaining that he was teething. "So, what's the plan for the spirits? You said we couldn't see them. How can we help get rid of them?" Marcus asked as he held a frozen waffle in front of Belarus. "Celeste seems to be able to see them. She can help. To be honest, the main target is you, Marcus, so we will likely have to use you as bait." "No" came from Celeste. "Helios Pov Tulai, we need sleep. If this is the way to get sleep, we need to think about it," Marcus argued. "What about the coma, Marcus?" Celeste said, and I saw tears appear in her eyes. "It's not like I'll be asleep for the whole night. We just need to draw them in. Right, Helios?" he asked. "Yes, I will set up an ash circle around him. Once he is asleep, we can wake him. He should be able to step out of the circle while the Nawal and Alu should be trapped." "See, perfectly safe," Marcus said. Celeste just crossed her arms and stared him down. After a minute, she stirred the mole sauce and pointed at both of us. "If something happens to you, I'll kill both of you," she said, and walked away through a small door that I assumed was the pantry. "Sorry, she's just tired. She is usually not this murdery," Marcus whispered. "Don't try to explain my worry away, Marcus. I have every right to be mad that my mate is bait." She came back out with a bag of rice. "Ha, that rhymes, Beta Jillian said as he entered with Camilla. Celeste narrowed her eyes at him and he paled slightly before turning to Marcus. Danny and Maya went to get an ingredient Gonzalo noticed was missing. They should be back in about 10 minutes. Gonzalo is still looking through things. We're just here to grab some Tupperware containers for mixing things, he said as he went into a cupboard and grabbed some containers and spoons. Camilla looked a bit hostile but unsure at the same time. Baby, you okay? Beta Jillian came around to her side. Camilla looked at Celeste, tears welling up in her eyes. I'm sorry, I am not sure I can do this, she said, and then left the room in tears. Go. Celeste tells Beta Jillian, then turns to me. Give her time. Her dad passed away in one of the attacks where you attempted to grab my mother before she met my father. It's not easy for her. I looked at the ground, a lump in my throat before I felt a hand on my shoulder. I looked up to see Celeste looking at me sympathetically. She will come around. They just need to see the real you. How do you do it? I asked her quietly and she looked at me confused. How do you look at me and not see the people you've lost because of me? Out of everyone here, you've lost the most because of me, but you were still the first one to give me a chance. Because I get to look at them grow up because you stopped when you saw the truth. Because we've been safe in this pack house while you've been hunting those coming after us. It's not always easy, Helios, but I don't want to live in the past. Your actions were misguided, done in anger at what you thought was a wrong done against your mother. I don't blame you for it. I don't blame you either. I heard, and I looked over at Camilla walking back in with Beta Jillian. I'm sorry. Celeste has explained many times what happened. She snorted lightly as a tear left her eye. Honestly, you didn't even actually hurt my father. You didn't kill anyone that day, but you destroyed some structures and while they were trying to assess the damage, a large rock fractured from the mountain fell on one of the houses and crushed him. We couldn't move the rock in time. Blaming you was easier to do than to deal with my grief and, well, I'm tired so I'm emotional. I am to blame. I have done a lot of wrongs. I don't expect to be forgiven easily. I turned to Celeste, I'm eternally grateful that you've given me a chance. I turned to Marcus, I never expected to be welcomed into your home so soon. Thank you, I will do all I can to earn your trust. Marcus shook his head, I saw the vision Helios. I was there when you found out what happened. I was wary at first. Getting over Celeste being taken while she was pregnant, knowing what you intended to do, was not easy, but that was more me than you. Like Camilla said, it's easier to blame than to deal with your emotions. If I didn't trust you, do you think you would be holding my son? He smirked as Corey tried to eat my button again, having dropped the waffle. I smiled and nodded, gently taking his mouth away from my shirt and grabbing the new waffle Celeste was offering. We all stood there just silently reflecting until we heard the front door open. Oh yeah, that smells amazing. Gamma Daniel, and his mate Maya, their little boy sitting on her hip that I knew was named James from Celeste's emails, walked in. He stopped at the door and noticed all the expressions in our faces and asked, "What did I miss?" Beta Jillian laughed, "Therapy session." "Oh good, I hate the mushy stuff." "What are you making, Luna?" He went around the counter to look at the pot. Mole, did you find what Gonzalo needed? She said as she gave him a spoon with a bit of sauce on it to try. He moaned and held up the bag in his hand, then moved to the other end of the room. Babe, where did we stash my stretchy pants? Gonna need them tonight. He grinned at her on his way out. I don't know how he's not fat yet. Celeste, is this the recipe from Mrs. Rodriguez? She asked as she sat on the other side of me. She put little James on her lap and held out her hand to me. Hi, we haven't officially met. I'm Maya. It's nice to see you when you're not trying to take my best friend, she smirked at me, making me blush. Maya. Celeste chided her friend as everyone laughed. What? You know I am not comfortable with awkward Luna, I am simply saying he's okay in my books, she said, and I couldn't help laughing then. You have very honest people around you, I said, and she grinned at me. We had dinner and then Marcus, Gonzalo, Gamma Daniel, and I took a walk around the pack grounds. I was interested in the forests, where they may be able to hide. Celeste was helping set up the room where the other women and their kids would sleep. We walked all around but we couldn't see anything. No indication that they were in the woods. Let's head back and prepare. I don't think we're going to find anything in here, I said. Could it be we're wrong and it is something in the environment? Gamma Daniel asked as we headed back. Celeste saw the creatures, even if she thinks she dreamt it. I don't think she did. It's too much of a coincidence that she dreamed the exact creature I suspected, Gamma Daniel, I said. It's just Danny, please. What's the plan then? He asked. Gonzalo and I will set up the trap in Marcus' room. Celeste is letting us borrow the baby monitors so we can see when the ALU and Na will show up. Once they start feeding, we wake up Marcus and kill both the creatures. How are you planning on killing them? You said they were spirits, Marcus asked. There is a spell to make spirits corporeal. That's what Gonzalo has been working on this afternoon. Once they are corporeal, well, they aren't immortal, so we just need to kill them. Sounds easy. Marcus asked. It won't be. They have both been feeding off your pack for a month. They will be strong. I don't know what physical strength they will have. We should be ready for anything, I said firmly. Danny, have Gabriel, Zach, Brenda, and George protect the girls. Make sure Valeria is also there. She won't be happy but, considering she's expecting, I won't take the chance. She can have medical supplies in there with her just in case. Make sure the doctor on shift is ready in case someone gets injured. Have anyone living near the pack house in their bunkers. I want the warriors in their homes but ready to come to aid. We don't want to show our hand. Yes, Alpha, he said as his eyes glazed over as he mind-linked orders. Beta Jillian met us at the door. What can I do to help? He asked. You and Danny are to set up camp in the Alpha rooms tonight. I need you all to nap until then and take some energy drinks once the night begins. I need you guys alert, Marcus said. Can we not use a decoy tonight? Does it have to be you? He asked. I'm sorry, Beta Jillian, but at this point I'm pretty sure the novel is addicted to the fear that comes from Marcus. We all have a distinct odor, it's the same with fear. The novel honed in on Marcus' fear at the battle in the pyramids. It traveled all the way here for it. It has been feeding on him for weeks. He will know it's not him. I won't let anything happen to him. I owe Celeste too much to fail, I explained. Beta Jillian sighed as he looked at me and nodded. It's just Jillian. Celeste trusts you, so I do as well. I looked at Marcus. Is everyone like this? Yes, they all trust Celeste with their lives, he said, and I couldn't help but see the adoration for his mate in his eyes. She has done nothing but looked out for everyone in this pack. She's gone and back and still finds a way to try to give second chances. Well, except for Alpha Jeff. She had a deep hatred for that man. She even told him that Sandra wasn't his and that she was dead before he was put to death just to see him crumble. He shuddered at the memory. Scary Luna. We laughed as we walked back into the pack house. We prepared the trap and added a salt ring around the room just in case. I think we will also try to catch an hour or two of sleep. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours, I said as Gonzalo and I headed to our suites. Helios POV. I woke up shortly before 9 p.m. I knocked on Gonzalo's door and he opened it after the first knock. I eyed him warily. Did you get any sleep? I caught a nap. He shrugged, then smirked at me. It's been a while since I've had a good fight. Can you blame me for being wired? I sighed. I can't, but we need to be on the ball tonight. Make sure you drink lots of coffee. It might be a long night. You know I've got you, he said as we walked towards the kitchen. We slowed down as we both smelled something amazing and heard arguing. I pushed through the door and was met with Celeste mixing something in a deep bowl and Marcus standing against a chair at the other end of the counter. Both looking equally frustrated. Celeste looked up when she saw me push through the door. Helios, tell Marcus I have to sleep with him tonight. Otherwise, the novel will find it odd and our plan will fail. No Tulai. You're not going to be in the middle of the fight. I won't let you. Marcus crossed his arms. You won't let me? I'm not your kid, Marcus. I thought I made that clear many times before this, she argued. I took pity on Marcus. I could see his need to protect his loved ones. The plan we have is for Marcus to sleep in bed alone. Once they become corporeal, it will be too volatile for so many of us to be in there. We need room to maneuver. I said, and Celeste narrowed her eyes at me and growled before pointing at me. You're taking his side? Or are you saying that because I'm a woman? You can't deny that I am useful. I have pyro ability and a shield. Plus, you said yourself that I can see them. I'm useful. I didn't say you should be out of the fight. I said you shouldn't be in the room right off the bat, I said, lifting my hands up. What did you have in mind then? She said. I think you should be in the room across from the master bedroom. We will be monitoring through the baby monitors. Once we have them trapped, you can come help. The shield will be useful. I couldn't even get through it. Plus, if I remember correctly, Marcus can share your fire, which will also prove useful. She tapped the spatula on her cheek as she thought about my explanation, not noticing she was adding flour to her face. I saw Marcus trying not to laugh, throwing me a grateful look. Fine, I guess that makes sense. I'm making snacks for tonight, she said more brightly. Marcus slid a container of brownies towards us. A little while later, we were in the common room talking about random things, playing with the pups after Celeste kicked us out of the kitchen so she could finish her baking. Both kids were on a giant play mat crawling around on the floor playing with toys when I heard a commotion coming from the kitchen. I saw Marcus flinch and put his hand to the side of his torso. "Watch the kids," he said and bolted out. I heard a roar coming from him from the kitchen and looked at Gonzalo. "Go help," I told him as I left the couch and grabbed both pups and set them down on a corner with the toys. I was on the floor, sitting on my haunches in front of the pups, ready to protect them, when I saw Celeste come into the common area. I could still hear Marcus yelling in the kitchen. Celeste was holding a tea towel to her nose. She looked annoyed, but not afraid. "What happened?" I asked, as I sat back on the seat and let the pups crawl back out the corner. "Two are fighting over the last brownie. Everyone is so grumpy around here because of the lack of sleep." He clocked him a good one and the other one stumbled backwards into me, hit me in the ribs with his elbow and his head gave me a nose. She blotted at her nose a bit more before she was satisfied it wasn't bleeding anymore. Marcus poked through with one of the guys, Gonzalo following with the other. He stopped them in front of the couch. "Sorry Luna," they said in unison before Marcus kept pushing them through. "What's going to happen to them?" I asked her as I grabbed the toy Belarus was giving me to squeeze so it would light up again. "Just a night in the dungeons so they cool off." "He knows it was an accident," she assured me, then smiled. "You're good with kids. You ever have any in your long life?" she asked and I blushed. "No, I've never exactly made time to date, what with revenge and all that." Her eyes went wide and I'm sure I went as red as a tomato. "So in almost 2000 years you've never?" I shook my head and looked away, choosing instead to play with little Cory as he put some rings into a cone. "Your secret is safe with me," she giggled before Marcus came back to check on his mate. He grabbed Belarus. "We should drop them off with Maya. We should get this over with." "You need to change your shirt, love," he told her. I picked up little Cory. "I'll help him." "You can go change," I said. "Okay. Here. They won't sleep without these," she said as she handed me two of the stuffed alebrijes I had given her for the pups when they were born. I smiled, pleased the pups liked my gifts as I gave the little dragon alebrije to Cory while Marcus took the cat. When we got to the room that they had set up for everyone, a young teenager was on a seat next to the door with a sketchpad. She gave me a dirty look before anyone could notice and then returned to her sketch. I took a quick peek. It was good. "How long do you think it will be before we see them?" Gonzalo asked later as we waited in the room across from Marcus. "He needs to enter REM sleep. The ALU won't act until it can influence his dreams," I told him. "It was like 4 a.m. when I woke up and saw them," Celeste said as she munched on a lemon square. She looked tired and I could tell she was keeping herself awake through sheer wool and sugar. "It was only 2 a.m. Why don't you take a nap, Celeste? We can wake you when we see something," I offered. "No, thank you," she simply said, never taking her eyes off her mate. Gonzalo snickered. "What's funny?" I asked him. "I don't think she trusts you to wake her." You took her mate's side earlier after all, Gonzalo said. I looked back at Celeste and she only smiled sweetly at me before putting her eyes back on the baby monitor. I rolled my eyes. You were more trusting when you were a kidnapped victim, I said. Helios, you've forgotten how she jumped in front of her mate at the pyramids? That's just a woman in love, Gonzalo said as we kept watching the small monitor. Less than a half hour later, I saw movement coming from the window. I watched as the ALU made its way inside, looking around for a moment before standing right in front of Marcus. It placed a finger on his forehead and I saw Marcus start tossing in his sleep. Celeste stood up towards the door but I grabbed her. We can't yet. We need the novel in the room, I whispered. She bit her lip before looking back down at the monitor. Helios POV. The ALU was taking its sweet time with Marcus. It was a few minutes before it called for the novel and we saw as it came through the window. I needed him to get a little closer and step over the ash circle we had made on the floor. He was 2 steps away. Come on, take another step, I heard Gonzalo whisper. When he finally took the next step into the ash circle, I breathed a sigh of relief. Wake him up via mind link. Then wait for my signal, I told Celeste. I saw her eyes glaze over as we pushed through the doors. The incantation, Gonzalo, I yelled as I jumped into the circle. Marcus wasn't awake just yet. You're both far from home, I said, as I sprayed them with the tincture Gonzalo had made. Marcus woke up and looked around, not seeing anything, while Gonzalo kept chanting in Latin. Marcus fell off the bed when the novel and ALU became corporeal, both trying to push past the ash circle. I jumped over the bed, aiming my feet right into the ALU's chest. It made a satisfying thump and sizzle as it pushed into the invisible barrier of the ash circle. I grabbed the vial of deer ash, vodka, and holy water and dumped it all down its throat. Now Celeste, I screamed as I kept its mouth held open with 2 hands and I saw her coming in with her hands already on fire. Marcus scooped fire from her arms and jumped over the bed and shoved it down its throat. The vodka I'd added at the last second turned out to be a good idea. The entire being began smoldering, the smell of burnt flesh hit my nose and I tried not to gag as I held it down until I was sure it would burn. I turned as I saw that Jillian and Danny had run in and were helping Gonzalo with the novel, which seemed to be a lot stronger than it looked. It sent Danny flying backwards and his shoe smudged the ash circle. With a shriek, it plowed through the closed window. Hold the ALU down, I instructed Gonzalo as I jumped out the window. I landed right in front of it and dodged a stream of spit it threw my way. Soon after, Marcus landed just on the right side of it, with Celeste floating down in her fire shield. She never quite landed, and was still floating a foot above the ground as a wolf landed on the left side. It was trapped, waiting for someone to make a move. I smelled something acrid behind me and immediately remembered the stream of spit it had thrown my way. I saw Celeste throw 2 fireballs at Marcus, which he caught easily in his hands. It really was quite something, the way he could share her gift. The exchange caused the novel to turn towards Marcus and spit. I pushed him out of the way as I felt some of the acid spit hit my left arm. I heard growling and a yelp as the wolf got flung by the tail towards a tree, landing at the base of the tree and immediately shifting back to Jillian. I panicked for a moment, thinking he was dead, but I saw him shift and moan. I struggled upward, summoning my staff, when I noticed the novel was feeding off of Celeste's fear when Marcus pulled me down again. Wait, Celeste says to stay down. Something is happening, he said. I looked back towards Celeste and the novel. It was starting to slow the feed and I thought maybe Celeste was going to pass out, but then I noticed she was getting brighter and brighter. The novel hadn't noticed. It was sniffing the air and looking at Beta Jillian, finding him a suitable replacement meal. Celeste looked at Marcus, a slow smile appearing on her face as she winked at him. An arc of fire, resembling those you see in solar flares, whipped out of her chest going from left to right. I felt the heat of it singe my hair as it whipped over us, slicing the novel in half, searing both sides so that there wasn't even any blood oozing. The top half, not yet in shock, tried crawling towards Celeste in a rage, but Celeste raised her hand and a jet of fire streamed out of it and hurled towards the novel. Its screams of anguish only made her funnel more fire at it until there was nothing left of it but ash. That's my Aztec goddess! I heard Marcus mutter behind me. Celeste ran to Jillian once the novel was nothing more than ash and we promptly followed. It's just a broken leg, Luna. It will heal, he was saying when we reached them. Marcus moved past me to help him up and Celeste turned her eyes on my arm. You saved Marcus, she told me, with tears in her eyes, then engulfed me in a giant hug. Tulai, he needs the arm. Looked at it. You're going to break him, Marcus said quietly as he placed a hand on her shoulder. She pulled back and she was a bit teary but scoffed and said, he is immortal, I can't break him. Actually, I think you did break a rib. I teased as I grabbed the other side of Jillian so we could take him to the Packhouse Hospital. Oi, we good? I heard Danny scream from the top floor. Yes. Everyone is safe to go back to their rooms. Both of them are dead, Marcus yelled back, then mumbled, I hope we finally get some sleep tonight. Thanks. You will need to sleep in one of your guest rooms. This one is toast. See you tomorrow. And Luna, you're getting scary, Danny said as he saluted Celeste and disappeared from the broken window. I didn't think about that, Marcus grumbled. I did. We're already set up in the bedroom next to our office. We have contractors coming tomorrow, Celeste said from in front of us. I love you, he said dreamily. I couldn't tell if he was always this sappy or if it was exhaustion. A small part of me was a little envious of the clear love and devotion they shared for each other. She smiled brightly as she ran inside yelling, that's why I'm the Luna and you're only the Alpha. I'm going to get the twins. I'll see you inside. She'll be passed out by the time we're done, Jillian said, and I laughed. She ate tons of sugar to stay awake for the fight. It's going to be one epic sugar crash, I told him as I saw Camilla running towards us. Camilla, can you send a quick text letting everyone know it's safe for everyone to come out of their bunkers before you go to sleep tonight? We're just headed for the hospital now, so Drive West can look at his leg to make sure it's setting right, Marcus asked. Yes, Alpha, she said as she eyed Jillian's leg with worry. I'm okay, baby, Jillian said soothingly. You better be, because Valeria has informed me that you're going to be a dad while we waited for you guys and I'm not raising this pup alone, she grinned at him. Jillian tried to jump out of our hold towards Camilla but we held him firmly in place. Jillian, as happy as I am for you, you can't hold weight on that leg yet. How about you let us escort you and then you can ravage your woman while you spend your night in a hospital bed? Marcus commanded him, but he was grinning from ear to ear at his friend. Stupid leg, Jillian grumbled, but there was nothing but happiness in his eyes. Gonzalo met us at the entrance of the hospital pack. He wasn't wearing a shirt and had a patch of gauze and medical tape on the right side of his chest. He looked at my arm and smirked. "Novel spit got you too. Just grazed. How'd you make out?" He laughed and rubbed the back of his neck in embarrassment. "I rolled on it trying to get to the ALU. It's dead, by the way. Nothing but goo now. If no one's too seriously injured, I'm heading to bed," he said, and I nodded. "Remember you promised Celeste you'd teach her to make tamales." "She won't shut up about it," Marcus yelled after him, and I could hear Gonzalo's groan. We stayed at the Crescent Moon Pack for a few days after that. We left with the promise to come back for the twins' birthday and Celeste's wedding and 2 Tupperware containers full of baking. I had promised to share with Theo and Sebastian, but Gonzalo convinced me to just forget to share and split the loot with him. When we got home, we met Sebastian and Theo at their place to go over anything that's happened while we were away. The next shipment was only 3 weeks away and we needed to be ready. "Helios. Glad to see you back. We were starting to get worried you wouldn't make it for tomorrow," Theo said. "What's happening tomorrow?" I asked. "You have an invitation to an antiques auction." Thank you, thank you, thank you very much," Sebastian said, taking a bow. "You managed to find the black market?" "Yes, it took a while and I had to provide an old alias of yours from Veracruz so that they could verify your credentials. If we play our cards right, we should get an invitation to the real black market auction after that," he said. "Ugh, that was the worst one. I hated being Ramon," I whined. "Yes, well, you're still going by Helios and I don't think you want them tracking your current businesses. Veracruz is the only one you have still officially alive," he explained. "How's business?" I asked Theo. "We've moved all the physical files from the old building to the new one. All the employees also came with us, as we haven't made a decision on who we're keeping. I've spoken to a realtor to put it up for sale. They are heading out next week for pictures and appraisals. Anything I need to take care of?" I asked. "You have 2 meetings on Tuesday with potential clients. Outside of that, no. We're okay. You still have to finish going over a bunch of paperwork but nothing that is urgent at this moment. Thank you both for taking care of things. I'm heading home," I said, getting up. "What? We're not even going to get a quick recap of what happened in Arizona?" Sebastian whined. "Gonzalo has got video from their security cameras for you. I ate so many pastries this morning and I'm having a sugar crash. I will catch you both tomorrow at the office if you have any questions," I said as I left the penthouse. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.